a lot of these books are just consistently really good.
I love that he's using his panel show as a way to game the system and get extra information out.
Matt Dinniman's a problem solver.
Yeah.
You told me this before, that he puts himself into corners and likes to work himself out of them. I'm a speciesist.
Yeah,
I'm very much
completely.
a speciesist. We're better than all those aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, put the label on me. I
am a speciesist.
I am anti anyone that's not human.
Welcome everyone to a Toot Around podcast episode. My name is Richard.
My name is Austin.
Today we're talking about one of our favorite series to read so far. We actually agree on it. Dungeon Crawler Carl. Today we're talking about Book 5, The Butcher's Masquerade. I'm going to jump the gun here a little bit and say it's my current favorite. It's my current favorite Dungeon Crawler Carl book. I'm going to have a blast talking about it. What did you think about it overall? Where does it sit?
This is before Book 7, though. So Book 7 hasn't come out. So
That
if
is
anybody
true.
watches this in the future, you've read Book 6. I started Book 6. I couldn't wait, so I had to read on a little bit.
Yeah.
Book 5, so we're going to go spoiler-free for the first little bit. We'll go a little quick on this, 8 to 10 minutes. Mainly, we're going to spoil up to Book 4. We're going to catch people up. If you want to read Dungeon Crawler Carl, know what it is, look at our first episode where we talk about Dungeon Crawler Carl. But we're going to recap up to Book 4 and see where we left off.
Yeah.
Because to kind of grasp, you've read this, what, couple months ago or so?
Yeah, roughly. A couple months ago.
Do you want to give a quick up-to-speed recap, or you want me to jump in there? What do you think? You think you got this?
I'm going to try.
Okay.
Rapid fire.
Set the scene for where did we leave off? What's happening?
But not from the beginning? You want to recap everything?
It all started with Carl's childhood. So, recap where we leave off going into Book 5.
So, Book 4, we had the, help me with the name of the book. This is The Gate of the Feral Gods.
Yep.
And so we end off with Katya, my girl, saying like, gonna leave the party.
Oh.
It hurts. It hurts me. She's gone off. They now go on to this new floor. This is the floor we've kind of been waiting for. Floor 6. This is where the hunters come into play and where all of the audience members have been waiting for this moment for. Now people get to hunt the crawlers for sport. And Carl made a declaration before climbing down to the 6th floor, and he told them that the hunters are not hunting them, he's hunting them. And not a single one of them will be left alive by the time the floor is done. That is his declarative statement.
And that's coming after he killed an admin as well. So we as the reader, we believe him that he's going to do this.
He's going a bit on a revenge tour right now. He's no longer just about surviving. It's about taking the system down.
And there's a lot of people in the system in the background. We find this pacifist group. There's some intrigue behind there. What's happening? Who's on Carl's side? And we also see at the very end of Book 4, Bee's alive. Where's that going to lead into Book 5? So a lot of excitement for me. When I finished Book 4, I went, Book 5, please. I said, Book 5, please. Let me pick up. Well, we don't have physical copies yet.
I know. We've been doing the audiobook for all of them.
Yeah,
so
every single one.
I do need to pick up the nice new covers, though, he's been putting out.
We do need to feature them. We're going through the whole series. We got to feature it on the set. That's a great recap, Rich. I think bringing us up to speed with that, if you haven't read the series and are going into Book 5, go check our affiliate. Well, check our affiliate link in the description below to check out the book if you haven't already. But you're here because they've read it. They're catching up to speed. Book 5 itself, your favorite so far.
Yeah.
And you're in agreement with everybody because I think this is everybody's favorite. Not speaking for literally everybody, but I can speak for Cuban, Chando from our Patreon. They said it's their favorite book. Whereas Fry from
it's also Coop's favorite book.
Coop's favorite book. Fry from our Patreon, his is Book 3, The Trains. And I respect you for the opinion. I
respect Fry a lot on his opinion. He went through the ringer of just really nailing out how the trains worked. I was so impressed with his spreadsheet document of it. It was great.
He thoroughly loved the trains. I was confused by the trains. It's fine. It's still a real good book.
I do like trains. It was just a little confusing.
Yeah, a little bit. So for your overall, we want to get into a Ramble rating, jump into out of 5 stars, and we can give what we think best, worst, and then we'll get into spoilers in a couple minutes from now. But what did you give this book out of 5 stars?
This one, I gave it a 4.5, a spectacular book. I had a great time with this one. I loved it.
So this is like on par with your book 1, and it's like 5 and 1 are your favorites of the bunch.
Basically,
Yeah.
1 gets that boost for the introduction.
Yeah.
Some of the it has that little bit of a boost of introduction.
Yes.
This one, I think it just nailed everything for me. It upped the stakes, gave us more character growth. It gave a lot more plot intrigue and paid off a ton of stuff that has been building for 4 books. This is where a bunch of the payoff happened.
Yeah.
And then set up stuff for more.
You're in good company with people. Do you think, you were saying best and worst categories for you, so you think characters, emotion, things like that nailed it for you?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say dialogue and prose is about the same as all the other books.
Yep.
Some really funny lines.
I think it gets it grows on me more.
Sure.
I think he's got his style down, but it's about
really,
the same. Yeah.
But it's really good.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the categories are much, much better,
Mhm.
but it's still really good. That's not a knock on his writing. It's just
for me,
if I had to pick a lower category.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I agree too. Prose is not the best of all the categories, but the more I'm in Dungeon Crawler's world, the more like he just has a voice to him. I really appreciate that. But so his prose being the lower, characters higher for me. Yeah, characters and the world specifically in this one were some higher categories for me. I gave the total book though a 3.75 out of 5 stars.
That's a little low.
And you know why? Because if Carl taught me anything, it's to go against the grain. It's to go against the crowd.
No, not when you're wrong. Democracy is only cringe if they're wrong. If democracy agrees with me, it's great.
That teeters my totter, gets on my nerves. I don't know about that because I think, so for this book, again, really good entry. I think my favorite's still book 4 right now. I think Gate of the Feral Gods, I'd go number 1. Number 2, I think this would be number 2. It would be this, or honestly, the trains was such a gut. I love Hecla and that whole scene happening. So it's somewhere in there. But for me, a lot of these books are just consistently really good. But book 4 shined for me. Now, I'll say this for book 5, just to give a quick picture of what I think I found out with Dungeon Crawler so far, or Dungeon Crawler fans. There's 4 types of people, okay?
In the world, yeah.
Let me break this down.
There's only 4 types.
Only 4 types. There's people that don't like Dungeon Crawler, they read it, don't like the humor or the tension. And they're like, okay, just not for me. Because I think this has got 2 things going for it. It's got humor stuff, funny, and it's got action, tense plot, like, oh, what's going to happen? All that mystery. So if you don't like either of those, you're out. Now, there's people like you who love the humor, love the action and tension, and it's made for you. Matt Dinniman might as well have said, like, he might as well put you in the forward, being like, Rich, this is your book. You're kind of like Carl, too, in many ways. It's just, it fits. So you're that kind of reader. Then there's the other 2 types of readers, I say. The people that love the humor, are cackling, but tension, they're like, I don't want the plot. I just want to laugh. Then there's readers like me, who I love the tension, the plot, action, all that stuff. And the humor, I'm like, it's fine. I kind of was realizing as I'm getting into these books, the more I'm looking forward to. I love the moments. The characters are great. But when I'm reading this, I'm the kind of reader, just to help when we have this conversation, I'm the type of reader that's looking for, I love the tension and the plot more in these Dungeon Crawler books. For some reason, when it's such a ridiculous thing, I was thinking, man, I'm not reading this for the humor, even though it has like smiley lines. I was just thinking about that, going, you know what, maybe there's someone out there
I guess I can understand your point then with specifically the scenes around Chris in Gate of the Feral Gods with some of the best tension and like character-driven moments, especially how drawn out it is. Of pretty early on, we realized that Chris has been taken over, and with this parasite, and high likelihood that Carl's going to have to kill Chris, his friend.
Yeah,
and just that heart-wrenching moment when he psychs himself up to finally do it and knows he has to, and Donut takes it away from him. It's like, and knows that like it's not for you. Like it understands because she doesn't like the way she felt when she had to take a life, and just like, I'll get my hands. I'll get my hands dirty, not you. You're our stainless leader. Like, you don't want that player killer skull above you.
Yeah.
There's a weird amount. It's lovely how they feel about each other. If Carl wants to, like, I'll get my hands dirty for Donut. Don't want to put Donut in that position, and she feels the same way.
Yeah.
All that stuff is great.
And not to mention, like, all the Carl, like, killing the admin and then taking this next up, flooding the next floor, all these and then Quan CH battle when they're chasing this giant thing above the giant dog puppy thing. Like, what is just I love it. But for book 5, we'll get into our opinions, thoughts on this, and a lot from let's get into it then. Let's get into so spoiler warning. We're now going into book 5. I think we gave a better recap than we usually do of prior books.
We try.
We need to keep doing that.
Do better.
Okay, let us know if we should change up spoiler-free sections when going into the next book a little bit. But spoiler warning is over.
You've been warned.
Okay, first category, Rich.
Emotional impact.
What did you give emotional impact out of 5 stars?
Yeah, it's a 4.5.
Spectacular score.
Spectacular. I was emotionally invested through all of this book. Some of the highlight moments, of course, pretty early on, we get Beatrice. Beatrice is back. And, I felt something when Donut finally laid into her, especially with Jeff Hayes saying it. God, it's such a good performance on that. It felt so hurt from it.
He gets the 5-star every time.
He gets the 5-star every time. There's the 7th category of audiobook narrator. It's always 5 out of 5.
5 stars, yeah.
Yeah. So there was that moment. There's everything to do with Prepotente and
he has my favorite moment. Yeah, that's my favorite moment in this book for emotionally pulling you is that Miriam Dom and Prepotente. But just for reference, I gave a 3.5 star on this. I think it's good, and we'll get into why. Why. But that was my favorite moment. Miriam Dom and Prepotente and Carl also marking Miriam Dom before she dies. Not giving the killing blow. However, just the little bit of selfishness in there that he kind of had to reluctantly do in Prepotente's reaction to Miriam's death. And just that was the most tense moment of the book for me. Would you agree? Did the Butcher's Masquerade top that for you? Or the singing, the bards?
I will add in there, I really, really enjoyed when Carl was on the panel.
Oh, yes.
That panel thing, I loved that. Just the whole scene, the setup of Carl being in a tense situation. There's the crazy girl. she's attacking Donut, and he is whisked away away from the game.
Lucy Amar, you're talking about?
Lucy Amar.
Yeah.
Whisked away, and now he's in a panel show where they're theory crafting and bunch of BS.
It's a Comic-Con.
And then it slips out, like going, yeah, you're kind of screwed because they know exactly where you're going to reappear. They're planning an ambush for you. There's nothing you could do. And he just takes over the panel and is like, all right, hey, we have a bunch of people that are watching the show that are fans. Let's theory craft. Hypothetically, if you were me, how would you get out of this? You guys have inside knowledge of what they're doing right now. Let's figure it out. Let's brainstorm, buddies. And he works it out. That is so fun. It's such a cool way for him to get out of that almost impossible scenario.
Which maybe somebody who comes and watches our Dungeon Crawler Book 5 won't be the people that like Sanderson and Stormlight and all that. But just going to slide in here, we may or may not be theory crafting as panelists on Dragonsteel Nexus.
Yeah.
We may be panelists just like Carl. That would be pretty cool.
that looks to be really fun. It looks like we will be doing a panel of some type. Seems
it's not completely confirmed, but it's looking likely.
Yeah.
So
I think by the time this video goes up, it probably will be confirmed.
But not to derail us with like book 3 essentially derailed us. But this that scene, I really like that too. Was there a moment? So Butcher's Masquerade, did you like the payoff as well? Because
yes,
I liked how everything came together in the end. Where the thing with this book, like a lot of dungeon crawlers, but maybe this one was harder for me, where there was a lot of moving parts in this one. There was the hunter mantises. There was the god.
You want to talk about funny?
Emotional
impact. I laughed so much with the Mantis STD situation.
Yeah.
Where how she's basically has a gonorrhea, flaming terrible gonorrhea, and the only way is for her to pass it on to another mantis, of which Carl has now hidden away. So it's like, I guess you're stuck. And just that whole situation and how hilarious and terrible, but hilarious. Anyway, and then the solution for it being gross and with the mother and I had fun. But yeah.
See, that's where the difference on emotional thing I think comes from. Is for me, I'm not finding it super hilarious, but the situation. It's the situation.
Yes, it's just a funny situation.
It's an absurd situation, kind of like the Mongo just starts having sex, and then Princess Donut is like, no, Mongo, no. So those situations,
she's ruining him.
And so the humor for this one landed for you a lot.
Also, the emotional moments for singing. So Donut's performance, and there's the funny performance, and then there's the song she sings that is the same song that B used to sing to her. Oof. Touched me as well. I loved it. Then Signet, I liked we got a conclusion to Signet's storyline that we got all the way from book 2, basically, this whole setup, and now we finally see the end of Signet's story, and I think a touching send-off, and just how Carl is now dealing with the NPCs of, now it's a kind of policy of, we don't just kill them, we don't just play into the game. It's hard, but we try and break them free from the conditioning of the game. And most of them, once they realize that, they want out permanently. And that's the best you can do for them, is to get them out of the game permanently. Oof. Rough what he has to do. So I loved all that.
And did the setup for this book too is when it had a lot of those plot lines like Signet and Mantis Hunter and I don't want to forget the Mongo and the dinos. So we're hitting on the big. We'll talk more about this in plot, but as far as paying off with all that, the pacifist group stuff too. Oh, and then Beatrice, as we mentioned. So there's a lot of moving parts in this, which we'll try to break down better in the plot.
Katya and her new group and all the struggles that they go through, and then of course the ending with. Basically, all the struggle Katya is now going on a drug bender, and because of that, she is. She put on the crown.
I think one of the emotional parts, because we can go on the characters next. One emotional part to go on is, and when we're rating this category, it's like, hey,
did we laugh? Did we cry? Did we do all that stuff?
Did they get the emotional reaction it's going for? Like the 5-star being out loud reaction, like I'm laughing, I'm edging my seat, whatever. Or then 1-star being the opposite. So with me for this book specifically was an internal problem. It was here's where it is. It's at the whims of the reader, right? Sometimes when I was reading book 3 and the Hecla situation happened, it was kind of like a B plot story, right? The Hecla is a B plot. And I was reading that, and I was kind of reading it for the train stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking trains. I'm confused by the book. Then when the Hecla story hit and it went, boom, 180 direction, I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. I thought this B plot was building up to be something big, but I wasn't super invested. But at the same time, it just hit right for me. And I was shocked. I had a jaw. I was like, whoa, did not expect that. For this book, I know what a lot of people did love with things like, and I don't know, I'm reading book 6 right now. I don't want to spoil anything, but a lot of people, when they were reading book 5 here, there's a lot of plot moving part, and I think I invested in the wrong plot lines. I think when I was looking, so for the plot twist moment with B, for example, not being a big part of the book, which is, I see why people like it, because it's a twist on, hey, B's not going to be a big part, at least in book 5, where you have the big emotional moment with her, Princess Donut, and Carl, but I was going in, my expectations were going like, okay, this is more of an A plot. I was thinking like things like that. Okay, I'm gonna get B. Like there's gonna be a lot of tension with B. Princess Donut Carl's kind of going in my head like what kind of situations can happen. And then it was plot moment, but then focused on other things like all the other bunch of good stuff it has. So I think with me, I was focusing on and going like, okay, I'm looking for more payoff on B plot line, X plot, and we'll get when we talk plot. So when I was going for emotions, I was like, oh, when are we getting? Okay, that's still good. So I was investing myself in the other stories where I was more interested in. So emotionally wise, good. The book paid off, and I was excited to go into book 6. Started it right away. I was just like, you know what? I still was floored more by book 4 stuff because Carl's main plot line and story hit me better with admin stuff we discussed already. So that's where I'm coming at with my 3-5. Just explain it before we go on the characters.
Okay, sure.
But do you want to continue on to that or move on to character stuff?
Yeah, we can move on to characters.
Okay.
Hey, Inkstone Books sent us something. They haven't paid us. It's not paid for by them, but they sent it to us. We thought it was neat. They do those edge lining painting for the books. Looks super sick. Thought I would show it.
Thanks for sending it to us. We'll get back to the episode. Thank you, Inkstone Books. So character time. Characters, I think it's always the best part. You know what? I will throw, even though I give this category a high score, I'll throw in a couple complaints. Okay. Just to be like, I think it'll be interesting. Okay. So characters, what'd you give out of 5 stars?
I give characters a 4.5 as well. I think
4.5 star.
Mainly
shoot. We forgot thought provoking.
You want to move back?
Yeah, cross that out. We can't go out of order. Thought provokingness. What'd you give thought provokingness out of 5 stars?
4.0. I think it was great. Thinking about, so we can get into a couple different elements of it, but I think with this one, we start dealing with ramifications of kind of separating your, like, the audience from the entertainer and how jaded people can be of they don't even treat the crawlers like people. We get even more of that with the panelists and different shows. We get to see Carl going down a much darker path of like doing what's necessary, not necessarily what's good. He's still trying to do the right thing, but he's now willing to be a lot more brutal with it. And there seems to be building the river in his head, and that's building to something that's going to explode at some point.
Thanks for the hint.
I don't even know yet.
No, I'm reading book 6 right now, and I'm on a portion where it's talking about that.
Oh well, it's building in book.
It's building.
It's building in book 5 too. Let's be honest. It's been building for a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, thought provokingness. Beyond that, what else? Oh, I think everything with B is talking. I found it really interesting how, starting out from just on Earth and before Earth was flattened, B cheating on Carl is like, it's a big deal. It's a big emotional sore spot. But now the end of the world's happened. And for the most part, Carl's gotten over it. Like, there are other more important things to get on with. Same thing with Donut realizing, like, Carl, why don't I feel as bad? What's wrong with my emotion? Like, I'm not feeling the way I feel I should. And it being a protective mechanism, and Carl telling her, like, hey,
she even says that at the end of the book too, like after friends are dying. She goes, Carl, why don't I feel? Yeah.
And saying, like, hey, this is a way to protect you, but when it's all over, like, we'll be here to take the mask off. And just, it was kind of sad and made you think about it. And also thinking about the mask that Carl is wearing all the time, how that's draining him. So a lot of good stuff to think about. Also, yeah. What did you have to think about?
I give it a 3.5. Good. I think that for this book in particular, there's some things that make me think somewhat, but it's not. I think when I'm reading Dungeon Crawler, it does have something to say, but it's never like the priority. It's never the thing that sticks in my mind from the book. So this one, I think all the things you're saying are more like character emotional moments for me. As far as like the deep messages and thematically, has good stuff. So this book in particular, it's like, I think the first point you made with Carl and the audience, for example, or like working the audience. Also, there's some interesting themes about a show, like Carl and Princess Donut being the show, kind of continuing since book 1, but using the audience to their advantage and using your celebrityhood and using your fame and using that against, like, the only thing keeping Carl Donut alive is that you said this in book 4, which I really liked and made me think more about the book, is the more money they make them, the better. But as soon as they start losing the game money, so if they flooded floor 9 and that lost them a crap ton of money, that wouldn't have been okay. But they're still netting the system more money. So kind of that dynamic in the background of how that plays, it makes me think. But the other stuff, I think it's good character moments in that. But as far as thought-provokingness, it's good overall, but not anything to like write home about.
There's also the big thread through this whole series talking about, I think, consumerism in general and the kind of callous nature between consumer and the product or whatever service it is. So how we can watch reality television shows and see just people being, in pretty messed up situations, and we laugh and clap like trained seals, but we disconnect their humanity a little bit. They're just people on the screen to us. The book itself goes much further into that, takes that to the extreme of where these people, like, they quite literally see the crawlers as just actors, really. Like, they're not even...
That's a good point.
They're not even real sentient beings.
Yeah.
But they acknowledge that once the game's over and they win and they're now citizens, like, oh, yeah, they are real people. But
I think the thought-provokingness of this series is greater than the sum of its parts. Like, book 5 in particular, I think continues the messages from before. There was nothing new in this one that particularly drew me to go like, okay, it's continuation building upon prior books. So I don't know whether to give it all to book 5 or just to go, hey, in general, Dungeon Crawlers, like, really, it does make you think, even though it's more of just a fun, it's supposed to be absurd, but then the Matt Dinman does have a lot to say. For the book, and this specific book, good. For the series as a whole, I'll even give it 4.5 stars. I think it has a lot to say. But do you want anything else on thought-provokingness before we get in the characters, which I swapped us with? I can't believe I missed it. But characters, what'd you give that out of 5 stars?
I give characters a 4.5. I think it was spectacular as well. I
give it a 4. I give it a great score, yep.
The main thing is I love every single side character.
Yeah.
I love the villains and even the weird alien accountant. I liked how he was portrayed and also subsequently just taken out. I was like, you volunteered for this, man. Like, it's like, oh, please, I'm just an accountant. It's like, you joined this game. You are hunting us. Like, no sympathy, all that. So, I've seen that done before, and there where the guy goes, oh, and offers sympathy. This, I'm glad Carl just goes, yeah, no, you joined the hunt. You joined the kill the innocent people game. No mercy.
We abide by the Nuremberg trials here. Well, this is you're complicit, okay? So,
well, not just complicit. It's one thing of they're there watching, which is bad enough, but no, you're
participating.
You're participating in the killing.
Okay, so more. This could have gone in thought-provokingness, but it's like asking how complicit you are of the people actually doing the killing, then the people that are aiding in the killing, then the people watching. So for like something like that, as bad as horrific as the Holocaust, you're looking at, okay, the ones actually committing the Holocaust, the ones
we bring it back to World War II too often. This is a book channel.
Let's skip over it. Okay, you know what? Fine. But that kind of theme of what he's complicit or he's doing something like, no, how many degrees removed from
the horror do you have to be before you're not as culpable?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But so for characters, we got to talk, of course, Carl, Princess Donut, Katya, the main 3, I'd say.
Yeah, I think we can even do Prepotente, especially. Oh, yeah. Prepotente, like a big switch, goes from a basically comedic side character to hard switch of he's an intimidating character now, and he's far more serious, less of a comedic comedic relief.
He was Top Gunned. Goose died. It changed him. sorry for spoiling Top Gun, an 80s film, but
that is true. We watched it, didn't like Goose, and then watched the second movie and went,
badass.
I love Goose.
Movie 2 did so much for Goose's character for me.
Yeah.
It made me actually care for him.
Mhm.
It's great. But with Prepotente's character, he's now taking a more serious role.
Let's start with the side characters or work our way to the bigger main characters.
Okay, Prepotente, thoughts?
Oh, so overall, I remember Prepotente being set up as kind of this parallel to Donut of, in many ways, it's a goat turned person-like.
Mm-hmm.
Also very young, but overly attached to his mother, and I will kill your mother. And just like this over the top, ridiculous.
Prepotente?
Yeah. Prepotente was like just aggressive to the point. Like,
no, Samantha's the "I will kill your mother."
Oh,
character.
Samantha's a killer.
Yeah.
Prepotente's like,
no,
I'll kill you.
Yeah, no. So Samantha's the "I will kill your mother." The headless sex doll.
Yeah.
How could you not remember the headless sex doll?
The
Rich?
headless sentient sex doll. I completely forgot for a second.
The Prepotente was just more like attached at the hip.
Yeah.
To
And
Miriam Dom.
Willing to threaten anyone who gets in their way. And slight inconvenience. Just like the weird moment of Miriam Dom saying, "Now give Carl a hug," and just Carl being so uncomfortable.
Starts sobbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes from that to kind of, he grows up in an instant of, he's kind of like Carl in a way. He wants to bring it down. Like he's now on a path of revenge, no longer tied down by his mother. He is
like it. You
quickly
know, those
went the
people
revenge
complain
path.
about the insta love type. This is the insta coming of age. Just
Yeah.
snap. He skipped the whole Ferris Bueller stuff and just went straight to I'm grown up now.
He went right to, I'm going to bring this system down. I'm going to break everything around me.
I never thought I'd fear a goat so much.
Yeah, he just seems kind of so unhinged because you now see what his priorities are, of where Carl wants revenge and wants to bring down the system. But I think his priority mainly is for other humans. Like he wants to save as many people as he can. And bringing down the system is part of that. Like that's needs to happen. Prepotente, I don't think, has that same mentality. He's not looking to save humans. He's looking to just get revenge.
Oh, he's not a human. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he does. Donut does care about humans in a way.
Yeah, she cares about Carl and has that whereas he has nobody now. Prepotente's.
Yeah, and Carl could try, but it's, especially with how they've teamed up, it seems so transactional. Where Prepotente now just wants to be alone and not willing to have a real connection to anybody anymore. So I'm so fascinated to see where that goes. Of if an option came around to sacrifice the rest of the crawlers, but do a serious blow to the system intended, like he'd probably take it. And so he may actually become not an ally, he may be an enemy in the future, even though their goals are kind of aligned.
I like whatever the hell he did at the end of the book, skipping the level. I mean, he don't care.
Which I thought that was interesting as a plot point of it was built up over the whole book of the pacifist group and the other groups like feeding him information and tools. There's like, hey, let's just skip past this. Let's barrel on through.
Does he have his goat people supporting him? What are they? I forget the name. The goats.
The goats.
The goat people.
Whatever, the goat people. The goat aliens.
Sorry to all of you goats out there.
They have their own
We founded the goat population. Damn it.
Yeah. Oh, darn.
But yes, so it was built up with, we'll talk more of that in plot too.
Sure.
Because Prepotente, his character, very clear. We have
also just Miriam Dom's
Dom
ending death, just how that was all handled was touching, sad, rough.
One of the best parts about, my favorite parts about Dungeon Crawler are the characters, because we can't talk about everyone, but Florence Signet, even the Mantis Queen Emotion, Carl's lawyer, Samantha, I will kill your mother. All these, they're not going to have intense arcs or dynamic arcs, but you can picture each of them. They kind of fit their roles really well. And
you even get the two bodyguards that are now with them.
Yes.
Because of the lawyer comes in, they take away the gate.
The rock. Yes, the rock thing.
Yeah. The whole crew And it's becoming far more of like this big family when they go back to the
Crew?
home.
What do you mean crew? It's the posse.
It's the
Come on.
I'm sorry. It's the princess posse.
How dare you? Can we talk about Princess Donut?
Let's talk about Princess Donut.
Okay. Princess Donut. What did you think about Princess Donut, this book? She had some big emotional moments.
I was talking about in book 4 where I was more nervous. I'm like, I want some more Princess Donut stuff. I felt like she was sidelined for book 4 and a bit of book 3. And I wanted more moments for her. That's why I was really happy with this book. We got a lot of great Princess Donut moments, specifically the 2 biggest ones being her confronting Bee in the beginning, and then her performance at the end was so great. And then, of course, the final scene of her breaking down, of like wondering if there's something wrong with her, and telling Carl this, and all of that together. And on top of that, Donut kind of taking the lead in a way when Carl was gone and having to save him from Dog Girl. What's her name?
Save her from Dog Girl. Bring me back again.
She has the Rottweilers.
Yes.
Help.
Yes.
Help me out.
Yes. Lucia Marr.
Lucia Marr.
I had the name earlier. There it is. Yeah.
I love the fight scene described in hindsight of how Donut killed one of Lucia Marr's dogs and just taunted it, like going, "Good, I'm glad the dog's dead." And then the added mystery of like Lucia Marr going like, "Oh, you killed the wrong one. If only you killed the other one." I'm going like, what the hell does that mean? And so more mystery of all, like great mystery to add on to it. But yeah, I loved the moments with Princess Donut.
Princess Donut, Carl are what make the books work. Princess Donut, same opinion, great character. I'd say I'm nervous about something though.
Oh,
I got a nervous tick happening about Princess Donut. Princess Donut had her moments here, and I don't want to get Princess Donut fatigue. I'm afraid. You know, I don't want to get marveled out. I don't want to get, because Princess Donut has all the lines and is just that fun character, and I like that she had emotional moments here. Sometimes I wish it would go more. And so here's the thing we have from Carl that we can't get from Donut, because it's from Carl's perspective. When we have those emotional Carl moments, we can dig down, get his narrative, and it hits hard for me, because anytime there's a Carl moment, we then get narrative, dialogue, internal monologue that we just can't get from Donut, because she's wearing this mask. So we see the mask get unfolded at times, but then at least from Carl's perspective, what I'd like to see, what I hope happens, is I hope that we get more internal Carl stuff about Princess Donut, because I feel like Carl only acknowledges Princess Donut's mask when it comes off. He'll sometimes mention it, but the main moments are he kind of ignores it in his internal monologue, other than when it comes off. Whereas I think it should be a continuous tension point with Carl going like, "Hey, there's more going on behind." Like the whole B part with Princess Donut, great. And then after that B part with Princess Donut, it was a bunch of jokes, but then Carl didn't like acknowledge it as much as I'd like him to, which is more so I'd like to see those moments of like, okay, keep this going. Like those joke moments with Princess Donut would hit more if we're knowing that it's like there's something beneath that, which we're reminded of in those 2 moments you brought up. But I guess the nervous part is I hope book 6 and going on that I just want to see if we don't get, I don't know if we'll be able to top those Princess Donut moments. So if Princess Donut continues with the fun and the comic relief, I hope they don't get undercut. I hope that doesn't undercut too much her moments in the future. I'm nervous, but you know what? I'm still there. Princess Donut's a great character, with the caveat of that's my complaint.
To give the added example of how much stuff is going on with her that we don't get to see.
Yeah, not a lot.
In the previous book, she was working with
Yep.
She was working with their agent to basically
Zev.
to basically wipe out the existing government.
Yeah, Viva la Revolution. And I guess I love that. Yeah.
There's clearly just so much to her. And that Carl admitted it in like book 2 of Donut's a lot smarter.
Yeah.
And a lot smarter that gets on, and probably one of the most important scenes of him realizing that Bee and his mom overheard Bee's mom talking about how to treat a guy is like you have to pretend to be dumb, because as soon as they figure out you're smarter than them or as smart, they'll leave you. And that Donut overheard that. And that's how she kind of treats Carl and the audience in a way that she knows she's being watched. So
she has so much to her.
Yeah.
And I want to see Carl get more into that because to be fair, if Princess Donut had her own book, I almost think from her perspective, it could be
I could think of
just as interesting of a book.
How cool would it be if we got a whole book where you're already agreeing.
Yeah.
Like Carl's going down a path of like the river in his head of rage. Like it's building to something big that I'd imagine there's going to be, he's going to hit a point where it almost takes him out of commission. We've already seen that several times of Carl does a bunch of big things, but he's been pulled away now several times where other people are now picking up his slack. He's not the only one. Like in book 4, we had that where he was
gone.
He was a while, and he was a little let down, going like, everything was okay without me.
Yeah.
And he felt a little inadequate of going, it's that selfish, nasty feeling of going, he thought he was more important in the apocalypse.
Yeah.
And yet without him, people will move on. And he wants to feel that important, that he's leading, and that without him, they would fall apart. That's not the case. It was certainly early on that's the way Princess Donut was, but now we get more scenes with her being able to save him. I would love it if we got a moment with Carl does something big, the river is flowing, he takes down something, but now he's basically out of commission and needs to be saved by Princess Donut. And if we got a whole book where now it's Princess Donut's POV, I would love it. It would just be so much fun to have. At the bare minimum, it would be cool if we got maybe a novella type deal. Like something happens to Carl, big deal.
I bet you we will.
And then we get a novella of Princess Donut saving Carl.
Yeah.
That I want to be in her head for at least some time.
That's what I'm missing out on a bit. Because and which credit to Matt Dinnerman on giving us these full characters we want to get in their heads. Because Carl himself, the person we do get in our heads this whole time is Carl.
Yeah.
And what do you think about him in at least book 5, Butcher's Masquerade? Because I have to keep it focused because I sometimes mudding, like I'm thinking Carl throughout the whole series.
Sure.
But with book 5 as well, what did Carl do here that made his character different in a way? Or no, maybe
it's not different.
Different is building. The right question. It's what did
it's
build
just building of his brutality and how he's willing to. Before he was willing to, he was the Captain Kirk of it. Of he's given option A and B, both are bad options, and Carl would find option C, where everyone can live, and he figures something new. In this case, he's starting to acknowledge that like people are going to have to die. Yeah. And even his allies are going to have to die. He can't save the NPCs, not all of them.
Can't save everyone.
And even the ones he's saving, he's doing his best, but they're for a purpose. It's to put them on the front lines on a later floor. And then even with now the ring that the bad father gave and it's like, hey, this is going to be your downfall.
Maggie and oh my God.
Frank,
yes.
Frank gave him the ring.
Yep.
And this is going to be his downfall, which we're starting to see that building up more and more of. It's not just a risk in the sense of all the tools. It's doing something to his mind. It's messing with him and giving him these migraines and these headaches of rage. So in this book, we see him use it on Miriam Dom, and he didn't do anything technically wrong, but profiting off of an ally's death, a friend, then how he goes out, his mercilessly killing people. He's now weighing these options of he could give mercy, but then he's like, hey, this is a free kill. I can use it to power up my ring even more.
You know who seems almost getting just as way less innocent than they once were is Katya. What do you think about her decision at the end of the book?
Well,
you're talking about TED talking.
You're talking about twists.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, her gloating over the death of her once ally and betrayer, and
man, the names are tough. Not Hecla, but
E?
Evie.
Evie.
Or Eva.
Eva.
Yep.
Eva.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yep.
E something.
You
It's
got
fine.
it. We're good.
And her doing just the dastardly thing of force putting on the crown of the sepsis whore on Katya before dying. And now, floor 9. Floor 9,
Oh,
baby.
I can't wait.
Only one can leave.
The setup. Princess Donut or Katya.
Yeah, so we're going to figure out how they get out of that.
I'll be honest, I hope they don't get out of it.
Mm.
I want consequences. I don't want this to be a Carl finds a way out. I want Carl to try and fail. Like that. I want to see something deadly. I don't know what's going to happen, but yes. So, you know, the AI. The AI. You know, just for the AI,
oh my God.
I'm up into 4.25. There's a lot of fantastic characters.
That's the thing. I'm going off.
There's
the reason why I have to give it
characters.
spectacular is there's so many side characters that are getting so much development with so little time.
I'll give 4.
I'm just so impressed with that.
I'll give 4.25, not the 4.5. You know what? There's one character that bugged me a little bit.
What's the character?
Mordecai.
He's fallen off.
So the reason he's fallen off for me is it's even said in this book where he's just become kind of useless. Like, yeah, he's brewing the potions and stuff, but the thing he's there for plot wise is that conflict in the background. He's our connection to Audette, and he has his own backstory. But for the book though, he's been that mentor character, but the more that Carl has, the Dungeon Anarchist cookbook replaced Mordecai essentially.
Yeah.
To where now Mordecai needs to find a role, and I'm just like, he became way less fun. And I think I didn't realize it the previous books because he was such in the background.
Well, he was literally pulled out, and you're given a
for a whole book,
timeout
he was
for the
gone.
whole book.
Yeah, and now he was present in this book and didn't feel present. So I'll say, other than Mordecai, Mordecai I think is the only character that's real disappointing. Everybody else is great.
And also I think we got several moments in this book because of the nature of the whole system of, Carl can't say the plans out loud or else people who are watching will cheat or the AI system will do something about it. For his real plans, he has to keep them so close to the chest he can't even tell Mordecai. And so now when they do planning, Mordecai is just in the dark. And so he doesn't get to be a part of the plan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Mordecai's going if you're just not going to listen to me, why am I here?
Yeah.
I think he has those kind of moments of going.
Which, to Ditterman's credit, to the author's credit, he acknowledges it, but I think he's just got to find something. Or it doesn't have to, but I just mean...
Yeah, something's
Mordecai's
got to... He's got some cool character motivations and history, backstory. We get more of that in this book of what happened to him with Audette. So, a little bit.
I think that's beginning book 6.
Oh,
Because I did
never
read
mind.
book 6. That's prologue book 6.
Never mind.
So
I'm
can't
sorry.
count that for book 5
Can't
credit.
count that.
However, it is a great... it's great. So
It's great stuff. Not this book.
Want to go to plot?
Wait, there are more
We mentioned a ton. I mean...
AI. We were about to touch on it. We didn't
AI,
say. Just more great stuff. Just further devolution, just now becoming a real person. It just more and more unhinged. We get the creators going, it's going off the rails way quicker than before.
Yeah.
Negotiations are on the way.
Yes. So, and the AI sends, did I read that right? Sends Signet into the Butcher's Masquerade. The AI is the reason Signet was there. Is that correct? Because I was confused at that part. We can talk about that in plot because I was confused. Okay. Want to go talk plot now?
Sure.
Plot, what did you give that out of 5 stars?
I initially gave it a 4.5.
Initially? What do you
I
mean
think
initially?
I could be convinced to maybe lower in this. We were going over some plot points, and I'm going, do I think it's spectacular or just really great?
So I gave it a 3.75, really good. Mainly, it all comes together. It's written really well. Moments. There's a lot of moving parts that were put together, as we kind of mentioned earlier, with the 7, 8 different... Actually, I could list out the plot lines like this because Carl had that statement where he talked about the goals going into the Butcher's Masquerade. And this was his checklist. And it was... I paused the audiobook and went, great, that could be great for a recap with Rich and I because it pretty much laid out the plot. He said, step 1, solve Tina Quest, which is the whole get her on stage, the whole the dinosaur. Step 2, kill Eva. Oh, it was Eva. Okay, not Evie. There we go. Okay, we could have just looked. Step 3, save the changelings, which we haven't even mentioned yet, and get to, well, a little bit, but the next floor down. Step 4, kill Queen Imogen and take castle. Step 5, kill Lucia Marr. Step 6, not a single hunter gets off this fucking floor alive. I added the fucking, but no one gets off this floor alive. And there were more other than that. That's just the goals going into the Butcher's Masquerade, which can kind of narrow the focus of, okay, there's a lot to juggle here. So for the very least, your higher rating.
It's just how many things were juggled and how many things were done so well. Yeah. There's a bunch of little mini arcs that are handled in such a satisfying way. I love the panel show on how that tiny mini arc of how is Carl going to get out of the Lucia Marr trap, and how that not only builds, like, it's solving the Lucia Marr thing, but we're also going into more of the wider world of we get more about the Peace Corps. We get Carl like punching out a reporter and going like, even if you get out of this, like, you're probably gonna have to
slave labor, whatever.
You're probably gonna have to go to trial for that too. Yeah. It's like, what do you mean? Try? That's a way further problem to think about now. Yeah. But having to deal with that,
knowing him though, it will come up in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all those little arcs come together so well. That's why I have to give them just such a high score, because I'm trying to think of a plot line that was like dropped or not handled well. Because pacing wise, I think this was nice, fast paced. Every chapter kind of just leading into the next one. Yeah. Bunch of little tense moments, then you lead into real great emotional moments. I don't feel there were really too many Deus Ex Machina moments other beyond that, what this whole series is kind of established of what really is possible. Because there is, the whole idea of the Gate of the Feral Gods type deal, and the teleport spells,
which he uses. So he uses right away. That, I mean, the setup of this book is instantly uses I'm going to the floor right now. I'm going to go kill the hunters.
Yeah, instantly. Great. One, I love that plot point of just on the attack from the get go. Let's immediately take a shot.
Yep.
I thought it was just so. One, it set the pace of this whole book. Of all these books before, it's about survive, and hide away, prepare, go after. And this one at the very start of the floor of, no, we're on the attack. They're being hunted. And it changed the whole dynamic of the book. Because after that attack, most of the hunters were just kind of on the back foot. They didn't want to actually attack them. They had to be encouraged to attack the crawlers, because the crawlers are getting good. Yeah. The crawlers are now like way better than they should be. Yeah. But it gave such a great dynamic of giving the crawlers some hope of they're the ones fighting. And one, it just feeds the human ego of like the indomitable human spirit of it. In all the wide world of the galaxy, we like to think that aliens would be most afraid of the human will.
The gonads.
Yeah, the gonads of humanity.
I will say I'm a speciesist.
Yeah,
I'm very much completely. A speciesist. We're better than all those aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, put the label on me. I
am a speciesist.
I am anti anyone that's not human.
Yeah.
See that?
That's why I love meat. We're so like, oh, why would you eat such a good cow? They're creatures too. And it's like, yes, but there is a hierarchy.
You would eat prepotente?
If prepared properly. No.
I mean, if you roast them.
Hey, they start speaking English or Spanish. They start speaking an
only
actual
those
language.
Two languages.
Only those two. I can speak.
If I see one goat speak Italian, cut it off.
No, that's not real. Italian's not a real language. They're not people.
Just as soon as I see
as soon as I see this, they go on the spit.
But to the point though, like that is a lot of the morality too. Like with that is how much do you see animal versus human versus So, and
well, that's the fun thing with fantasy sci-fi is it's easy in the real world of like, I'm a speciesist. I put humans first above everything else.
In fantasy sci-fi, I love Princess Donut more than my mother.
Yeah, Princess Donut's great.
It's a joke, Mom. But yes, so with the plot, I think why this is it's most people that are listening's favorite. It's your favorite. I think when I was looking this up too on rankings on Reddit, it would book 5 would either be people's favorite, then other people would have it in like middle tier. So nobody thinks this is their least favorite book from what I've seen. And plot points, I think it has something for everybody with anything that you cared about, whether it was outside in the world. Or sorry, not outside in the world, either in the dungeon or
outside the dungeon,
in the galaxy, outside the dungeon. For me too, I think this goes back to my emotional part is all the plot points that came together, like a bunch of other books that also do it excellently. I was focused on, I cared more about other plot lines that got paid off earlier in the book. So the Butcher's Masquerade happened, and I was going like, okay, this is all good. But like the Miriam Dom and Prepotente moment, my favorite moment of the book. Other one, the bee moment, which I really liked, but I wanted more. So those two things I was focusing on. The second half of the book for me only dragged more because I was interested in those things. So I still really enjoyed it and like it. However, I'm thinking if I'm comparing book 4 to book 5, I'll take book 4 all day. I'll stand. Tell me if you agree in the comments. Is there anybody out there? One person, just somebody validate.
The one thing I like with the bee moment that I want to get off is that in other books, like I'm thinking the standard route for that is to make bee a much bigger deal and to make her a big stay point and a real big friction point. I think it was a good and interesting choice to make, like, we get that emotional moment from her, but it's almost more it's more cathartic justice of she's relegated to insignificance of seeing her life before, like after the apocalypse and how she just kind of broke down and couldn't handle anything. The boyfriend who thinks like, hey, I would be king of the apocalypse. And basically, I just imagined Bee now out in the rest of the galaxy being taken away, watching the Cole crawl and seeing Carl just move on without her, of like, with also her talking cat now of being leaders of humanity to fight the apocalypse. And now she's relegated to nothing, kind of forgotten. I think that's a very cathartic moment for her character and definitely a win for Carl and Donut.
Definitely a win. And with that bee moment, so even like the Hecla moment where kind of does that twist, and other standard books would make this a longer issue or prolong it or just make it more of a moment. It works for Hecla, didn't work as much for me for B. And some of that too is I know Matt's fantasy book reviews, he was saying that book 4 for him, he didn't like, I don't want to terribly misquote him, but I think this is what he was saying, was he didn't like the epilogue with B being in there because he's like, that was, something about that. I don't want to speak exactly for him, but something that he didn't like there. Whereas me, the epilogue of book 4, I was like, where's this going to go? And so the fact that it subverted a bit is not a bad thing. It's just, I think there would have been other alternatives that I felt more invested in. Like, you get that hook at the end of a book and it's like, this is one of the main things that you're going to see. So for example, this book ends with skipping a floor. And so it ends with something that I know like, is definitive going to happen and it's going to be very consequential. The B thing ended up not being, for the character moments, consequential, not story-wise. I was looking for more, but at the same time, it wasn't bad. It was
sure.
It was really good. It's just
also I think it just made a lot more sense. I'm thinking of if it went the direction that the show, the Crawl's intentions of making B the final boss, the queen. Thing is, we've had several books now setting up that Carl has moved on. Like it's still a sore spot, but it's not. He now doesn't really think about it too much anymore. It's, hey, look, the apocalypse is here. It's not a big factor. For Donut, it should be a bigger factor. We don't get her position on it. She always, the mask is on. She still says like, hey, B, B did this, and still thinks highly of her. But now the mask came off, and that moment was like going, no, she chose Carl. If it came down to it, we know that if B was the final villain, Donut would take her out to save Carl. Like, we know that. And I don't think that they've grown so much over these 4 books, now 5 books, I guess now, is I don't think B is the same obstacle anymore that if this happened in the second book or something.
No, I didn't dislike the moment. Her being the final boss wouldn't even be what I would have wanted. I think the only thing we have with Carl and Donuts outside of the dungeon itself is B. Other than that, we have nobody else. So I think not even her being the final boss, but her being a more integral role to Donut and Carl's relation. Just kind of why I was complaining about Donuts and her mask being on and off, where Carl doesn't acknowledge it as much, like when it's off.
Something
the thing
like
with B for me is if in the story that B was more, so she could have been like that part could still have. You have a thought there?
I thought maybe that would maybe help you if this was what Matt did is not Signet. Not
Signet? Signet is the
no the
Samantha.
No, the big Crabbley. She.
Yes.
Audette.
Audette. Yep.
If Audette hired B on as an assistant to kind of keep her, like, one, save her from the whole kidnapping thing, but also keep her involved to keep her close as like maybe a leverage point, whatever plot moments you have to do. But imagine if B was always there as the assistant to Audette. Now we have this connection going forward. And she's still there. And she would have maybe leave her open to doing more. Maybe the relationship kind of mends in a certain way where B actually helps him on the outside.
It just, for me, it feels like over the 5 books that, we know B from the get-go of this. And kind of like that subversion on the... So if the epilogue had being the epilogue in book 4, if that wasn't there, I'd maybe think differently. But epiloguing it, setting up B, hyping up, I would just... Exactly what you're saying, of having an integral part. The final boss thing, maybe that could have been their plan, but they subterfuge that so that it doesn't end up happening. That would have been a little more cheesy and like, oh, final boss, Princess Donut has to go beat actually her. No, but something like that I would have loved, with like Audette doing something with B, or her being and working with Sev or something in the background, because I have an attachment, not that I like B, I have an attachment in like, I've been invested in B from day one just because of her relationship to Carl, whereas I have more that I'm thinking about B than even like Mordecai or Signet or some of the other side characters. Like, I think for me, it goes, I know most about Carl, Princess Donut, Katya, B. It's like up there for me of important characters to Carl. So I just think if B's going to be there at all, that would have been cool to see. I like your direction for it. But but that being said, enjoyable plot, but I was focused on the wrong things. The wrong things is where the payoff ended up. But do you want to go into world building?
Yeah, this is now. Oof.
Yeah,
this does some great stuff. This book.
So you give it a 4 out of 4 to 5 stars.
This does some spectacular stuff.
Be careful with the words.
I gotta be careful with words now. Spectacular 4.5.
I agree. It does great stuff. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars.
I could be convinced to lower it. In all honesty, I'm thinking of how much this is built up. The reason why I give it such a high one is how many things were built up from the previous 4 books, and how much payoff is here. And I almost factor that in with, like, I don't know if I should factor that in with plot or world building.
I think plot more, but world, I could see what you mean. What big world things? I mean, the CrawlCon is a huge world building moment.
Just the idea of the hunters from, I believe, book 1. It was set up of like, hey, look, a lot of you are gonna die on floor 6.
Mordecai is saying that.
Yeah, like, you're lucky if you get to floor 6 and survive it. Like, the hunters wipe most of you out. Like, they've constantly talked about how after floor 6, or what is it? No, it's after floor. Is it after floor 6 or floor 9 that like the crawlers are an afterthought? They're a B storyline.
I think it's 9, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's after the faction wars.
Yeah.
So like faction wars is kind of the last part, and the crawlers are an afterthought for faction wars. They're just a byproduct, but people are really watching for the war, not them. Mm-hmm. So
we found out in a previous book that on the 18th floor they have like just underground cartel. I shouldn't say not cartel
it's
stuff, just a bunch of casino and
all the illegal
vices.
things.
All vices are there because no one ever gets there. But we found that out in a previous book. But with this, a lot of I think a lot for me with Dungeon Crawler is each floor for me. So I want to talk positive first. Let me do that with your point on the build up and seeing this floor. The floor itself, again, the floor is just the floor to me. So I will compare it to, we had Red Rising the live the other day, where Red Rising's world, the arena itself in book 1. Not spoiling anything for Red Rising, but it's just an arena. I think for Dungeon Crawler, you can say the similar thing of like, hey, but I love the world in Red Rising. So when we're focusing on the world in Dungeon Crawler, it's never the setting, really.
It's the setting fact that we get the lawyer.
Yes. It's the crawl con stuff, the Cocker Spaniel Society that has been created because Princess Donut's putting a smear campaign on Cocker Spaniels. That's the funniest part about the books for me.
That's pretty great.
I can't believe we haven't mentioned that.
The Princess Posse is just fantastic. Yeah. I love it.
And the Dungeon Anarchist cookbook continuing having all this lore of the previous crawls. And so the world feels real. And so it feels real complete. I think to exceed like the 4.25 that this range for me, I need to see more of like know where I am, and which spoilers, tiny spoilers. Book 6, I think does the floor because it's some. Never mind, I won't say anything, but it's just something more recognizable. I guess I can picture it better.
Sure.
Yeah, but with this, would you agree with when we're talking at least Dungeon Crawler, world stuff is what are we focused on? We're focused on more culture, history, because there's no magic system we're talking about. It's like random tech. So because when we're rating different worlds, it's some other, like this does something different than a sci-fi's that you would love. Because we can't compare this to like Hyperion, because Hyperion doesn't have, I mean, it's the technology in Hyperion that matters. In Dungeon Crawler, it's random thing that the fans give you. If you go to Matt Dinneman's Patreon, you can actually vote for boxes, right? For Carl and Princess Donut to get. And if you go to Tudor Ramble's Patreon, you can join a book club with Rich and I.
And you get a vote that counts to some degree. Not all degrees, but your vote kind of matters. Only kind of.
We talk to you about the book if we want to.
Yeah.
We actually do. We're obligated to.
At least one. I try and do more than that, but you know, it's fun.
We do it in Discord. Check out the Patreon. Link in the description below. But with this one, what else does it for the world? I mean, this one, it's tough to just single out book 5 again, but
we get
one.
Introduction to Carl's lawyer now.
Yep.
In this book.
Great personality.
Great personality. We now have a big turning point with the AI of now we realize that the people who are running the game now have to negotiate with the AI, and the AI is kind of holding them hostage. Now people can't leave. The hunters tried to leave in droves, and the AI held them back and won't let them go. That there is basically a last resort suicide button, and that the Orc sister's trying to press it. Just like, we gotta end this now. The AI's we can't let this thing escape.
Yeah.
And so we get a ton of that. The Crawl Con was great addition for it. We get more with the sponsors and how they have a lot more games going on, how they affected Prepotente, and they got Prepotente to just break the next floor completely. I mean, we got a bunch of that aspect of it. We get more, well, I guess it was more epilogue before, but I guess a few more details on how Earth is after the crawl has happened and how those factions break up and the rules surrounding it.
Yeah, I think there's more epilogue, but continuation of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did like in this book specifically that the funny stuff with Cocker Spaniel Society, and we're seeing the CrawlCon just gave us a lot. It gave us a lot more, because it's often when we go into these intermissions where they go onto a show, we get to explore that show, and it's more I guess the intermissions in previous books are more plot stuff. This one was plot stuff and way more world stuff than usual.
Sure.
So I gotta say too, with overall on Dungeon Crawler, is it close for you when we're talking your favorite thing is characters, right? Is it the best part about it?
I think so.
Would the second be world, or would it be other stuff? Is that the thing that gets you with?
I'd say plot.
That
plot for me is probably second. It's great pacing. The twists and turns are really fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the action on how that's done. I love and then tying this in with World, and I really enjoy the building up of the system of how they're leveling up and then using these different tools that they're given. How is Carl going to find a loophole and break the system? That's fun for me to think about and think with Carl about it.
Yeah.
That just adds to it for me. So those are my most enjoyable aspects for it.
You love that too. That whole how will you use tool to solve problem?
Yeah, exactly. So I loved everything about the Gate of the Feral Gods of using that, or how in this case he was using the teleport system he's able to teleport the castle down to the 9th floor to get him started. That was really creative and really great. And so stuff like that, how he got out of the trap with Lucia Marr by realizing, hey, the people here at CrawlCon have actually been watching the show and they have information I don't. Theory craft. Let's figure this out. I love that he's using his panel show as a way to game the system and get extra information out. Mm-hmm. That he knows other people are cheating too, so he's doing it along as well.
Yeah.
So I love that aspect. I didn't know that was the way he was going to figure it out. When reading the moment, I was like, of course you could do that. That's such a creative way to figure his way out of the trap.
Matt Dinniman's a problem solver. You told me this before, that he puts himself into corners and likes to work himself out of them.
Mm-hmm. As far as I know, that's just idle interview that I saw from him.
That's enough for me.
Yeah, it's enough.
You heard it on the internet.
I heard it on the interwebs. It must be true.
Approved. Do you want to go on to the last category of Prose?
Yeah.
What'd you give Prose out of 5 stars?
3.75. I think it's really good.
I also gave it 3.75. And this was I think over time, I've been given 3 5s, 3.25, 3.53. I think finally it's landed for me there was a couple lines where even though my emotional impact was not the best on this one, some of the lines got me.
Oh.
You want me to read you one?
Give me some.
This is Princess Donut in the scene with B. And I was stupid because I thought since I loved you, that meant you loved me. Oh, Princess Donut. Or, my beautiful boy, Miriam Dom whispered as she turned to dust. My beautiful boy. Oh. I know those are just it's not like
simple lines.
It's super simple,
and
but
it's not the line
emotion
itself.
Behind
it's
it.
Everything built around it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it is the reason why the lines work is because the character voice is on point.
Yes. What it's getting at is as soon as you say a Princess Donut line, you're like, oh, it's Princess Donut. That's Carl. That's
a really beautiful, well-crafted line, but in an odd character's voice, so that where it doesn't match the character that you've been established, doesn't land as well as a very simple line done in the character's voice perfectly.
Yeah,
it's actually I literally just started reading 2 days ago, Lonesome Dove, and that's almost exactly how I feel about it. Is the character voices are so on point. There's some of these lines that on their own, they're good lines, but because they just fit the character voice so well, they land so much better, and it makes them feel real. They're not just saying a line that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a line that fits them perfectly. That's what I love about it. I think Matt Dinniman does something very similar.
And Jeff Hayes. Jeff Hayes. He helps big time.
He helps a lot. I'll be honest. I think Jeff Hayes should get 50% of the proceeds of these books.
I don't know the deal that he has, but
it better be lucrative, because Jeff Hayes is top tier in the industry. I'm gonna say it every time. I know I'm like a broken record. I've said it every video of Dungeon Crawler Carl and other videos as well, but he's the best.
Every podcast episode, Jeff Hayes.
Jeff Hayes. Just Jeff Hayes.
What a guy. Well, that's been another. We didn't talk super prose, but sorry, the prose dialogue in there.
Yeah.
I think we get the only thing is that's the only repetitive one, at least in Dungeon Crawler's world, because it's usually there's not much else to add to the previous videos we did. If you want to see more of what we thought on the prose, I think the first episode we talked it about it lengthier, probably.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is Dungeon Crawler Carl. This was book 5. And just as a little sneak peek, book 6 has the potential to be my favorite. I am loving it so far. I am about 1/5 the way through, though. So I'm 1/5 the way through, loving it. Hint, I love card games. I love card games.
little tiny spoiler. It's more of a hint. It's fine.
Yes, it's totally fine. Rich, what did you think about this? Good book?
I enjoyed
Excellent book?
Book good. Good book.
We'll see you next episode.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.